You know this face. That's Lieutenant Martin Castillo, Miami Vice, the quietest, most dangerous man in the room, the cop nobody crossed. That's Edward James Olmos. And in 1992, fresh off an Oscar nomination for Stand and Deliver, at the absolute peak of his career, he made a decision that almost got him killed. He decided to make a film about the Mexican Mafia, not from a safe distance, not with Hollywood actors on a studio lot. He went into actual gang territory in East Los Angeles. He hired real gang members as his cast. He negotiated a truce between rival gang members just so he could shoot in peace. During the production, three people were shot in the neighborhoods where they were filming. None connected to them. They kept going. Weeks after the premiere, people started dying. Three people connected to the film were murdered. A gang interventionist was shot 13 times in her driveway while unloading groceries. The Mexican Mafia put out a price on Olmos' head. Danny Trejo said he saved his life. Olmos still didn't want to talk about it. Everything you're about to hear comes from court records, published interviews, and documented news reports. This is the story of American Me, and it's wilder than anything in the film itself. Chapter 1: The World the Film Was Born Into. To understand American Me, you have to understand what Los Angeles was in 1992. Joe Biden, then a senator, called it the most violent period in American history. In Los Angeles County alone, there were over 800 gang related murders in a single year. That's more than two people every single day. The Mexican Mafia, known as La Ima, controlled gang activity across Southern California from inside prison walls. They didn't just run the prison yards, they ran neighborhoods, drug distributions, street gangs, all of it coordinated by men serving life sentences behind bars, sending orders out through a system that nobody could penetrate. This was the world Edward James Olmos wanted to put on screen. Not glorified, not romanticized, the way it actually was. Chapter 2: How this film almost never got made. The script for American Me was been sitting around Hollywood for years. At one point, Al Pacino was alleged to play the lead. Think about that. Al Pacino as a Mexican American gang leader from East LA. The studio got cold feet. The script went on the shelf. Then Edward James Olmos emerged as a legitimate movie star, Stand and Deliver, an Oscar nomination. Suddenly, a major studio was willing to take a chance, but only if a more experienced director was attached to oversee him. Olmos said no. He'd take the role if he could also direct. After some back and forth, the studio agreed, and then Olmos did something that nobody expected. He threw out the safe version of the film entirely. He didn't want Hollywood, he wanted the real thing. Chapter 3: Filming in a War Zone. Olmos began production in the Boyle Heights section of East Los Angeles. Real neighborhoods, real gangs, real danger. There's no way to film in these streets without cooperation of the people who control them. So Olmos negotiated. Weeks of conversation with rival gang members, getting them to agree to a truce, not just to stay out of each other's way, but actually to work together on the same film. And guess what? It worked. Rival gang members sat at the same table. They ate together. They worked from 5 in the evening to 5 in the morning, night after night. One of the gang members on the set described it this way. He said they treated us like we were somebody, not like scum of the street, like we were actually needed. That had never happened before in these neighborhoods. Two gangs, same table, same film. But it didn't come without a cost. During the production, three people were shot in the 2 block radius of where they were filming. None of it connected to production, but everybody on that set knew they were in the middle of it. One crew member described it plainly. The only difference between this movie and the other movies is that we were stuck in a war zone. They kept filming. A gang member extra was shot coming home from the set. He was blinded. He said he wasn't afraid to die because he was already convinced he was dead. He had faith that if God wanted to see him again, he would see him again. Another extra was killed by a sheriff's deputy near the end of production. There are not dramatic These are not dramatic embellishments. These are the things that happened while Edward James Olmos was making a film about the cost of gang life in the neighborhood where that cost was being paid in real time. Chapter 4: Folsom Prison. This film's second world was Folsom Prison and almost got something that had reportedly never happened before: permission to film on the actual main yard with real inmates as extras. Think about what that means. 7 actors on the main yard, hundreds of real inmates surrounding them, guards watching them from towers with rifle. One wrong move and nobody could tell an actor and who was a prisoner. A prison official described his concern directly. When the actors took off the green vest to blend in and lost track of who they were, if something happened and I had to fire a warning shot, I wouldn't know if I was shooting at an inmate or an actor. While they were filming on the yard, an alarm went off. Guards came running, and the inmate was carried out on a stretcher. He'd been hit over the head with a weight. The crew had no idea what happened. They kept filming. Chapter 5: The film itself. American Me tells the story of Santana, a young man from East LA who starts a gang in a juvenile hall that eventually becomes one of the most powerful prison organizations in California's history. It's based on real people, real events. The founder of the Mexican Mafia, Rodel Condino, is the shadow behind the character Santana. The film doesn't glamorize the life. That's the whole point. Where Goodfellas gives you the Copa interest and the suits and the feeling of being somebody, American gives you exactly what it costs. What it does to the people inside and what it does to the communities around it. Almost wanted young men in East LA to watch this film and say, I don't want any part of that. The aftermath. The film premiered. The reviews were great. Roger Ebert gave it 3.5 stars. It showed at Cannes. And then things started going wrong. The Mexican Mafia was furious. The specific issue was a scene depicting the rape of a gang member's father in juvenile hall. And according to Trejo, who refused to work on the film out of respect for the gang, and according to the former gang members and the court records, that scene never happened. Could never have happened. And for the Mexican Mafia, it was the deepest possible disrespect. The gang interventionist hired as a liaison for the film, Anna Lizarraga, was shot 13 times in her driveway on May 13, 1992, while unloading groceries. She had spent years getting kids out of the gangs. She had lost family members to gang violence. She played a role in the film, and she was executed in her own driveway. 2 other people connected to the film were murdered. Then it got closer to Olmos himself. Again, according to Danny Trejo, the Mexican Mafia put a price on Olmos' head. Trejo, who had connections going back years, said he went in to the second in command of the organization and negotiated on Olmos' behalf. Olmos refused to meet with Trejo because he thought it was a setup. Trejo said he saved his life. Olmos won't confirm or deny it. He never spoke about it. The Mexican Mafia also tried to extort Olmos, demanding property and money. According to the law enforcement sources, the extortion count was eventually dropped from a federal racketeering indictment when Olmos indicated that he had nothing more to say about the threats against him. He was called before a grand jury. He testified, and then he went silent. He has never publicly addressed what happened after American Me, and still won't talk about it. Chapter 7: The Cruel Irony. Here's the part that stays with you. American Me was made to prevent gang violence. Olmos went into those neighborhoods because he believed the film could show young men the truth of that life and pull them back from it. And the film may have caused more violence than it prevented. One actor said it plainly. There's some irony in that. A film intended to stop gang violence that may have recruited more people into it because Santana was cool. He was in charge, he held power, and some people look at that above what the film is really saying. Olmos himself said, if this film can keep even one young kid from wasting the one chance they have at life, then everything we risk has been worth it. The people who died connected to the film might have a different answer. That's the weight of American Meat, the weight that it carries, not just as a film, as an event that happened in neighborhoods to real people, some of whom never came back home. American Me is available to rent on most American major platforms. Watch it knowing what it went on to make it. Watch it knowing what came after. And watch it knowing that the men who made it, the quiet, dangerous Lieutenant Castillo from Miami Vice, took the biggest risk of his career and his life to tell a story he believed it needed to be told. Whether it was worth it is a question nobody has fully answered. Least of all, him. Next time, a Soviet director filmed in a toxic wasteland. His entire cast got cancer. The footage was destroyed and had to be reshot. He never made another film. We'll see if you're ready for Stalker, the real unseen, the films worth finding.